Kyle Finnegan is back for the Washington Nationals. He has signed a one-year deal, and you assume that he is going to be your closer. But how long?
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as our show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And of course, look up Locked On Nationals on YouTube. Again, search up Locked On Nationals, and that is where you'll find your daily coverage of the Washington Nationals. Speaking of the Washington Nationals, we are getting into it as the Nationals have another spring training matchup. Today, we're going to get into some pitching matchups for the rest of the week and preview some baseball games here a little bit later on. We take on the Atlanta Braves later on today. It's a night game for your Washington Nationals. That's always a fun one. So we'll discuss that and preview tonight's pitching matchup with Jake Irvin on the bump. In the second segment, so far we're about 5 days into spring training. Let's get into a who's hot and who is not for your Washington Nationals. Who has been off to a hot start, who has not been off to a hot start. We'll have that for you in the second segment of today's program. But Kyle Finnegan, your all-star closer from 2024, is back with the team. And what is a little bit of a surprise move. For people who don't know, Kyle Finnegan was entering one of his final years of arbitration with the Nationals. He was due around $8.3 million. And the Nationals, right after the season, said, you know what? We're good. They let him walk. They let him hit free agency, see what the market dictated for him. And a few months later, he is back with the Nationals. And the Nationals saved over $2 million from what he was projected to get in arbitration. Now, let's dive into that here first, because I think that is the big story here, is that this is a big win for the Nationals. Saving $2.5 million for a one-year deal, that's pretty substantial. And even then, if you were to ask me, is Kyle Finnegan worth $8.3 million? I think there's a good debate there, but that's not what we're going to get into at this point. I think the market really dictated that Kyle Finnegan is good, but he's also pretty replaceable. Now, Kyle Finnegan was, again, supposed to make $8.3 million this year. And if you really kind of look at that number and compare it to what the other closers around baseball, who are a little bit better than him, are getting, then I think $6 million for Kyle Finnegan is pretty fair. So Mike Rizzo, he gambled here. He wanted Kyle Finnegan to go test the open market. This is his first time being a 100% free agent as a major leaguer. And the market dictated that, again, he is worth this $6 million. And I think Rizzo nailed this right on the head. If you were to look at Kyle Finnegan and the production that he has had, he was an all-star this last year. He is a good closer. He is a good reliever overall. He is someone that you should want in your clubhouse, not only as a leader, but also just as a good relief pitcher overall. Now, let's get into some real thoughts here. While Kyle Finnegan, again, he's an all-star. He is a good quality reliever. I don't think Kyle Finnegan is the closer of the future for this team. I don't. Now, there are some upsides to him hitting free agency. Listen, you're a major leaguer. You are being told your entire life that you are the best of the best. There are egos at play here. And that's fair, by the way. Now, with Kyle Finnegan right here and right now, I think Finnegan probably has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Now, we're later on in spring training here, but I think it's safe to say that Finny will be your closer entering 2025. But for how long? I'm not going to lie to you guys. I have kind of talked my way into Jose Ferrer being the closer for this team. I have talked my way into these young Nationals core guys being the future of this team. You're going to have a very young, raw bullpen. It is always good to have veteran guys. You've got Jorge Lopez, and now you've got Kyle Finnegan back, who has been with this team since 2020. These moves make sense to have two veteran guys, both of whom have been all-stars, both of whom have been really good over these past few seasons. Like, this makes sense for the Nationals as to why they want to bring in veteran talent. But I think it's interesting, though, because while 2 days ago when the Nationals first signed Finnegan, I was elated, like, this is a good move. This is a smart baseball move. But as the time has gone on, and really in the middle of the offseason, like, I was kind of doubtful that the Nationals would bring back Finnegan at some point. I always knew it was a possibility, but I always thought someone would come in there and take him, and maybe he'd be a closer elsewhere or a setup guy. But in that time frame, I talked myself into the young guys getting their opportunity. I talked myself more specifically into Jose Ferrer, your 24-year-old left-handed pitcher, being your closer. Because if you were to ask me today, and even a few months ago, Ryan, who has a higher ceiling, Jose Ferrer or Kyle Finnegan? I would have said Jose Ferrer. And I don't really think it's all particularly close also. Ferrer is very talented. Now, is his future going to be as a closer? We don't know at this point, but I think we're going to find out. And kind of getting into 2025, Davey Martinez has said it best. Like, they want to win. So if you want to win, you probably want the more sure thing, in which that is Finnegan at this point. But let's be honest. I'm not 100% sold that the Nationals are going to be trying to chase down a wild card spot. I don't think they can at this point. And it's not necessarily their fault. Do I think they should have gone out there and been more aggressive in free agency? Absolutely. But if you look around this division, you've got three teams, the Mets, the Phillies, and the Braves, who, in my opinion, those three teams are a lot more talented than you are. And that's okay, by the way. You had the 2010s dominance. You're paying your bills right now. The Nationals are close, though. And I think with this move, like, yes, Kyle Finnegan does make you better. And having that solid guy in the bullpen will make you better. But now, again, this is just my own thing. You could be different. But I have talked myself into having this youth movement happen and letting it breathe and letting Jose Ferrer and Zach Brixey or Orlando Revolta figure it out in the back end of this bullpen. When you're in a rebuild, that's what it's about. So here's my thing with Kyle Finnegan at this point. He's going to be your closer, and he should be. He was an all-star this past season. But keep in mind with this, from July 1st this past year, all the way through the end of the season, he had a 5.34 ERA, blew a couple saves, was not his best. While he did have pretty bad overall defense in that second half also, it's a little discouraging to see that. And something that we have seen from Finnegan is slow starts and slow finishes to end the year. That is a concern, especially if you talk about a postseason team. Like, my whole thing with Finnegan is I don't think Kyle Finnegan will be your closer for the next postseason team here in DC. There are better out there. And I think Finnegan, again, is good. I think Kyle Finnegan is someone that we want and you should be happy is back in this bullpen for this team. But I also would not be upset if the Nationals decided to move on at the deadline if they aren't in contention. To try to get and kind of make what was wrong, in my opinion, this past trade deadline and not trading him and kind of make right with it by him having a very good 2025 season. And then if you're out of contention, if you feel as if you need one more kind of relief guy in the back end of the bullpen who's going to be young and under contract, like a Mason Thompson a few years ago, then the Nationals, they should make that move and never look back. So, welcome back, Kyle Finnegan. I think this is a good move. I'm excited about it. You need veteran leadership, that someone who has been under David Martinez and Mike Rizzo. You need guys to really kind of be the mature, older father figurehead of a clubhouse. And this is a smart move for someone who has been in this clubhouse, who has worked with Davey. And again, this bullpen is probably one of the most unproven position groups on this team at this point. So seeing someone come in who has done it and been an all-star before, someone who is a good major leaguer, this is the move that you kind of needed to make. But again, I'm ready for him to be the closer, but I am also considering, what if it's Jose Ferrer still? And what if Kyle Finnegan gets moved into the setup guy? That's all I'm going to say for right now. But thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. I'm sure you can probably tell with my voice, I'm going through a flu game right now. MJ's got nothing on this. You got to talk about 25 minutes of the Washington Nationals. We'll continue that and get you a who's hot and who is not. We'll discuss that after this. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, you can check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals or find us wherever you get your podcasts. Again, search Locked On Nationals. Now, who's hot and who is not? It's been just a few days in spring training, but I think it is good to check people up on your top Nationals guys. Like, there have been some really solid performances, and there's been one that's really not so great. But I will tell you, there's a lot of positive to come in this segment. So we start off with kind of one of the main storylines so far, and that is Robert Hassell III. Again, a former top 100 prospect, a first-round pick from the San Diego Padres. Robert Hassell III finally looks healthy, and this is a big deal for the Washington Nationals, as so far in his first 11 at-bats, he is 5 of 11 with a home run. He's got a stolen base. He has 5 RBIs and a 1364 OPS, and not even to mention his web gem out in the outfield. Like, this is kind of the version of Robert Hassell that we expected to see back when you made that trade when you traded away Juan Soto to get all the top guys like James Wood, Robert Hassell, CJ Abrams, Mackenzie Gore. This is kind of what I expected. And this is the best version of Robert Hassell that we have seen so far. And now this is back-to-back spring trainings of which that he has been locked in, 100% healthy, and has been really good. And seeing that from one of your top prospects, someone who is still not out of the equation, to be an everyday player for this team is a really good sign to see. Now, moving forward, the one thing that we have to watch here is if he can stay healthy. And if he is healthy, this kind of production, now, I'm not expecting him to have a 1,300 OPS over the course of a 162-game season. I'm not expecting him to hit 450. But the expectation of Hassell at this point is that he's a very good contact hitter who can have power, who can play really good defense at all 3 positions in the outfield. And he can also steal some bases and is an incredible athlete. So that's something you're going to have to watch. And he has been one of the hottest Nationals so far in spring training. It's going to make it a very interesting call as the season goes on and when he will make his much anticipated debut with the Washington Nationals. And now, who is not hot is your star shortstop, CJ Abrams. It's only a few games, but he is 0 for 6 to start spring training. The good news is he's got 0 punchies so far, but he's not really doing damage. And again, it's only 6 at-bats. So it's like, whatever. I am just giving you information that he is 0 for 6 right now. And at this point, like, I don't notice anything different with his mechanics, because I think in spring training, I try to pinpoint guys and try to see, like, what is different. Guys who have struggled, like in the second half last year with CJ Abrams, he kind of has a tendency to kind of just open his body a little bit more, and it tends to just kind of have his swing completely fly open. I haven't noticed any mechanical errors there at this point, especially when it's so early on in spring. Like, it's kind of hard to really dictate what a guy is doing different. But At this point, he's just 0 for 6, so he's not hot. And that's okay. He's going to be just fine. Again, all-star kind of player, the future shortstop for this team. He is the guy. I have no doubt about CJ Abrams at this point in time. Someone who is hot. We mentioned him a lot in the first segment, Jose Ferrer. Now, you might be wondering, well, Ryan, he's got 2 appearances. He's only pitched in 2 innings. I know, but I'm just giving you information. 2 innings pitched and 2 punchies. Jose Ferrer, while I haven't been able to watch him on TV, everyone who is down in West Palm Beach has been just raving about Jose Ferrer, and they should be, because this guy is a very talented pitcher. If you were to talk about the bullpen, like, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm the one taking crazy pills. But Jose Ferrer has the highest ceiling of any bullpen piece for the Washington Nationals. Barring any injury, he is going to be your likely setup guy at this point. Barring injury down the line, he's probably going to be your closer as well. That is how good Jose Ferrer is. He has this funky left-handed delivery, and I think that itself is really hard to track for left-handed hitters and also even right-handed hitters. As you've seen at some times, right-handers really struggle against Jose Ferrer for whatever reason. But this guy is the nastiest stuff. I think he kind of reminds me a little bit of Sean Doolittle, and wouldn't you know it, Sean Doolittle is on this pitching staff right now as far as an assistant coach and kind of the analytics guy for the Nationals right now. And that is a big deal, because someone who kind of rides that high fastball the way that Sean Doolittle did, there's some resemblance there. And I think Sean Doolittle, someone who so far has been a great coach for this team, will kind of be able to pinpoint that and work a little bit more. And Sean Doolittle, if he could be a Sean Doolittle type for this team, that is huge for this organization, because Sean Doolittle was nails when it matters most for the Nationals. And I think Jose Ferrer, I see a lot of Sean Doolittle in him. So it's going to be interesting to see how he gets this going for the Nationals. Who is hot? Dylan Crews. This is a big deal, because we were kind of talking about, again, with fundamentals with CJ Abrams here. One thing that I have noticed just a little bit, and I'm going to get a little nerdy here. Dylan Crews last year, I think some of his issues, his overall issues, were he was trying to hit the long ball. Like, he was kind of selling out and trying to hit bombs, which is fine. That is what gets you paid nowadays. But I want Dylan Crews to be Dylan Crews. And Dylan Crews is at his best when he's hitting the ball up the middle, which we have seen him do a few times here and there. I think with Dylan Crews this year, something that I have noticed is that his hands, there's a lot less movement. And if you go back to his LSU days, where he was one of the best college hitters of all time, not just that year, of all time, where he was hitting home runs, extra base hits, nearly batted 500 in his last season at LSU on the way to a championship there. Dylan Crews kind of has that same swing now. And if you look at it this past season, number one, he just didn't look comfortable, which is understandable for your rookie season. But then number two, there's a little bit of a difference in which I've noticed with his hands. And now going into this season, I see that LSU Dylan Crews rather than the guy who was trying to hit home runs this last year. And it's not a bad thing, by the way. But Dylan Crews, he's kind of like this lower body hitter, where if it's low and in, he's going to get it. And I see a lot more movement down in the lower legs, and that is going to be a big deal, because that is something that I did not necessarily see a lot this last year. So seeing what Dylan Crews can do, I'm excited for him. I'm excited for what this guy can do. Because again, he should not be selling out for a long ball. He should not be the one trying to hit 40 home runs. You've got James Wood. I need Dylan Crews to be Dylan Crews. And so far through these first few games in spring training, he looks like the Dylan Crews of LSU that we did not see this past season. Last but not least, here on Who's Hot and Who's Not, Andres Chaparro. He is hot at this point in time. So far, he's just got a home run and 4 RBIs. He's batting 500 with a 1400 OPS. Again, just through a few at-bats. But again, something I've always said. I want to see my contact hitters get in contact. I want to see my power hitters hitting for power. Andres Chaparro so far has been looking good. And again, he is one of those kind of forgotten guys where I don't know where he fits in the overall scheme of things with the Nationals, but something that I do want to see from him is for him to get consistent at-bats, whether it's up in the bigs or it's down in AAA. He needs consistent at-bats because this guy, these past few seasons, he has killed the baseball and it's just flown under the radar for these past few years. Like, the guy can hit. And it might be Joey Meneses 2.0, where it's like you look at his AAA numbers for years and years and years, and this guy just kills the baseball. But once he gets up to the majors, flops a little bit. That very much so could be the case. But he's 24, 25 years old. Like, the guy hits, man. And he's proven that time and time again. So he has had a really impressive start to spring training. And it'll be really cool to see what happens with him and kind of where he fits in to the scheme of things with the Washington Nationals. But thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Next, let's get into some pitching matchups as we wrap up today's Locked On Nationals. And the Nationals, they get to take on the Atlanta Braves tonight. Tonight, not 1 p.m., but at 6 p.m. over in West Palm Beach. So that'll be exciting. Or at least I think it's in West Palm Beach. It is, in fact, a 6:05 start. It will be on MLB Network, but of course, there's a local blackout, so you can't watch it, unfortunately, unless you got some stream out there. But we'll get into that as we tell you about our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. And are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts, and each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller for longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety. It's a perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to, and if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the end-shell options are a classic favorite. For instance, I need something nutritious, protein-packed. I haven't really been eating these last few days as I've been sick, but I grabbed a Wonderful Pistachios to take with some medicine, and I felt amazing. I felt just more energy, and of course, get the protein in because you need to have your protein so you can get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So the Nationals take on the Atlanta Braves tonight at home at Cacti Park in West Palm Beach. And for those who want to know, I will be in West Palm Beach March 13th through March 17th on St. Patrick's Day. I'll be there to see some prospect games. So over those few days, we'll be getting interviews with the guys, and it'll be an exciting time. So let me know if you are down there at West Palm Beach from March 13th through the 17th. We can meet up, do whatever you want. So it'll be a fun time down in Florida. But we get into it previewing some pitching matchups for tonight's game. Got a pretty loaded pitching matchup. This was a regular season game. I'd be pretty steamed up for the Nationals. But you've got former top prospect of the Braves, Bryce Elder, going up against Jake Irvin of the Washington Nationals. Again, these guys might get 1 to 2 innings tops tonight, but it's exciting nonetheless. And Jake Irvin looked pretty good his first time around, and same with Bryce Elder for spring training. So this is going to be a cool pitching matchup. It's against the Atlanta Braves. I always get up for when you play a division rival, even if it's in spring training. And a 6:05 game down in Florida, it's going to be a beautiful night there. I'm going to try to find a way to watch the Nationals some way, somehow. I will have that game on my TV. I can promise you that much. So that's going to be an exciting game tonight. And then tomorrow, you have got your Washington Nationals again going up against a division rival. The Nationals are 3-1 in spring training so far. They just lost their first game yesterday against the Astros. They go up against the New York Mets, who are 1-4 so far, and you get your second look at the new pitcher over from Japan, Shin Ogasawara, the left-handed pitcher. This is one of those things where I really need to see Shin Ogasawara in person. So far, in his first start, was pretty good. Unfortunately for the Nationals tomorrow, you will not be able to watch this game again, but we'll see what the Nationals do decide to do. And again, if you look at the game, I believe on Saturday also, that game is on MLB Network for the Nationals. And actually, I scratched that. I believe that game on Saturday might be televised on Mass, and I'm checking that for you right now. I just had that page up, but nope, it is not. So that's fun. But anyways, you'll be able to watch some games. Masson does carry some, but these pitching matchups these next few days will be pretty exciting as you get to see Jake Irvin going up against Bryce Elder of the Atlanta Braves tonight, and then Shin Ogasawara against Juan Soto, those New York Mets, on a Friday afternoon in West Palm Beach. So first and foremost, thank you all for listening to Locked On Nationals, and thank you for dealing with a sick Ryan Clary. Tried to get the show out yesterday. It was literally impossible for me to talk more than 2 minutes without coughing, but today we made it through. Shout out to Hot Honey and Tea. Shout out to Medicine. Things are working now, and we're going to be on the up as spring training goes on. But I will catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.